The quiet geometry of hobbies. Marcus Leclerc had never considered his hobbies to be particularly important, at least not in the conventional sense. As an urban planner working in Montreal, his professional life revolved around large-scale decisions, infrastructure systems, and the organized expansion of cities. Yet it was not his work that brought him a sense of quiet satisfaction, but the small, deliberate activities he returned to at the end of each day. These hobbies, modest and often solitary, formed a parallel structure to his professional identity. His earliest hobby had been drawing, though he never pursued it seriously. As a child, he spent hours sketching buildings, fascinated by the symmetry of windows and the repetition of architectural forms. Over time, drawing became less about accuracy and more about observation. He began to notice how light interacted with surfaces, how shadows altered perception, and how small details transformed entire compositions. Later in life, Marcus developed an interest in woodworking. What began as a casual attempt to repair a broken chair gradually evolved into a sustained practice of crafting small objects. Working with wood required patience and precision. Each cut demanded attention, and each surface revealed imperfections that could not be ignored or concealed easily. Unlike his professional work, which often involved abstract plans and digital models, woodworking offered immediate, tangible feedback. The material responded directly to his actions, creating a sense of presence that he rarely experienced elsewhere. Marcus also cultivated a habit of reading in the evenings, though he approached it differently from most people. Rather than focusing on completing books quickly, he read slowly, often revisiting the same passages multiple times. He was particularly drawn to essays and reflective prose, texts that allowed him to pause and consider ideas without urgency. Reading, for him, was not a task but a form of intellectual wandering. Over time, Marcus began to recognize a pattern among his hobbies. Each activity required a certain degree of attention, repetition, and gradual refinement. Whether sketching, carving wood, or reading, he engaged in processes that unfolded slowly. There was no immediate reward, no external validation, only the quiet satisfaction of progress. This realization led him to question how hobbies functioned within modern life. Many people treated hobbies as distractions or temporary escapes from work. Yet Marcus suspected that hobbies served a deeper purpose. They provided a space where individuals could act without pressure, free from performance or evaluation. One weekend, he attended a small community workshop where people gathered to share their hobbies. Some painted, others played musical instruments, and a few worked on intricate mechanical models. As Marcus observed the participants, he noticed a distinct atmosphere. There was no competition, no urgency, and no need to impress others. Each person seemed fully absorbed in their activity, as though time had slowed down. Conversations occurred naturally, often emerging from shared curiosity rather than obligation. Marcus spoke with a woman who restored old photographs. She explained that her hobby required careful attention to detail, as each image contained fragile traces of the past. Through her work, she felt connected to lives she had never known. The process, she said, was both technical and emotional. Another participant built miniature landscapes, recreating entire environments within small spaces. He described his work as a form of storytelling, using physical materials instead of words. These conversations reinforced Marcus's belief that hobbies were not trivial. They allowed individuals to explore aspects of themselves that remained dormant in their professional lives. Returning home, Marcus reflected on his own practices. His sketches were not merely drawings, they were exercises in perception. His woodworking projects were not simply objects, they were expressions of patience and control. His reading was not passive, it was an ongoing dialogue with ideas. Gradually, Marcus began to approach his hobbies with greater intention. He dedicated specific time to them, not as obligations, but as essential components of his routine. He noticed that these activities influenced his work in subtle ways. His attention to detail improved, his thinking became more flexible, and his ability to focus increased. Hobbies, he realized, cultivated skills that extended beyond their immediate context. They trained the mind to engage deeply and consistently. At the same time, they provided a necessary contrast to professional demands. While work often required efficiency and results, hobbies encouraged exploration without pressure. Marcus also became more aware of the role of failure within his hobbies. Mistakes in woodworking could not always be corrected, and imperfect sketches could not always be refined. Yet these imperfections did not diminish the value of the activity. Instead, they contributed to the learning process, making each attempt more meaningful. One evening, while sanding a small wooden surface, Marcus experienced a moment of unexpected clarity. The repetitive motion, the texture of the material, and the quiet environment created a sense of calm concentration. He realized that this state of focus was rarely achieved in his professional life, where interruptions and deadlines were constant. In contrast, his hobbies offered uninterrupted engagement. They allowed him to exist fully within a single activity, without distraction. As months passed, Marcus began to see his hobbies not as separate from his identity, but as integral to it. They revealed aspects of his character that his career did not fully express. He valued precision, patience, and reflection, qualities that emerged naturally through his chosen activities. In a public lecture about urban design, Marcus unexpectedly referenced this idea. He argued that cities should provide spaces not only for work and movement, but also for quiet, personal engagement. Parks, workshops, libraries, and community spaces allowed individuals to cultivate hobbies. These environments supported creativity and well-being in ways that were often underestimated. The audience responded with interest, perhaps recognizing the relevance of the idea. In a fast-paced world, the importance of slow, deliberate activities had become increasingly evident. Later that evening, Marcus returned home and resumed working on a small wooden box. The project was simple, yet it required careful attention. As he worked, he felt a familiar sense of balance. The external world receded, replaced by the steady rhythm of his movements. For Marcus Leclerc, hobbies were no longer secondary activities. They were essential practices that shaped his perception, attention, and sense of self. Within these quiet moments of repetition and focus, he discovered a form of clarity that no professional achievement could fully provide. And in that clarity, he found something enduring, the subtle, deliberate construction of a life enriched not by urgency, but by attention.